I want to talk a bit about Sport Republic. It's been 4 years since they acquired their controlling share in the club. I make it 2 relegations. I had to check. I think it's 7 full-time managers, currently mid-table in the Championship. And is it no win in 6 at the moment? There's a few things we can accuse them of, Glenn. They've certainly invested money, because that was the thing at the time. I kind of went back through some of the responses when the announcement was made, and it was like, well, here we go. We're going to be spending some cash, because we hadn't been doing that for a while. They've spent money on and off the pitch. They've just been let down by far too many bad decisions.
The football decisions have been shocking in the main, haven't they? With regards to managers, and then by extension the decisions that those managers have played. Some very dodgy signings, particularly back at the start. You think about the money wasted on the likes of Amo-Ameyaw, Sulemana, even Charlie Alcaraz, who was good for a bit, but we barely used, didn't get the most out of him by any stretch of the imagination. The succession of managers I can't be bothered to name, and we then get to this season and we go down the route of appointing 32-year-olds with next to or zero experience, and this is what's happening now is kind of what everyone predicted, isn't it? That what experience does he have of turning a team round when it goes wrong? And the answer is none, because he didn't have any experience at all of being a first team manager. Sport Republic has spent some money. The stuff around the ground, which is they always put up as their look at what we've done. Yeah, it's great. I totally agree. No one gives a shit if the team on the pitch is terrible, and not producing. I mean, I think we all hoped when we had that run of games that we bottomed out, and this was going to be we were going to sort of like be aiming for the upper reaches of the league. But as you've seen, the last sort of 4 or 5 games, no, that's not our level. Our level at the moment is to be very, very mid-table. I joked on someone else's podcast a while ago that I'd settle for 14th and one place above Portsmouth, and that is kind of the way it's looking at the moment. And
not sure they'll finish as high as that, though.
No, maybe not. But yeah, I mean, Sport Republic as a whole, this one it's on a knife edge whether this is going to sort of like bail them out for a while, isn't it? Because that I think I was sat with Steve at that Preston game, and it was just that it's waiting to turn again. If we get beat these 2 home games as well, let alone what happens at Fratton Park, then it's going to be very, very difficult. But I would imagine that Tonda's brief this year was to make the playoffs. When he came in, especially as he'd had the 3 wins, whatever it was, on the interim, when he was the interim manager, I would imagine his brief was to make the playoffs. If he doesn't make the playoffs with the squad or the money that's been spent, how much confidence are they going to have on him next year? Which, as we said before, is the crucial one, because it's the last one with the parachute payments. So if he doesn't make the playoffs, I kind of think he's toast. I think he'll last until then. I think he'll last until then, unless we make a serious bid to get relegated, which would be ridiculous given the amount of money that has been spent. So, Sport Republic and the perception of them, it got put on hold for a couple of months, but now it's beginning to turn back to them again, and people are going to be looking at it, particularly if these next 2 home games don't go particularly well.
I've seen a bit of it today as well, Martin. As Glenn says, we were turning. There was the chanting and people turning on the owners. So they responded by sacking Will Still, buys them a few more weeks, buys them a couple of months, and then I'm starting to see that creep back in again today. And when you look back at the 4 years, it's just been terrible.
Yeah, I think from a footballing perspective, it has been. I think that we talk about managers, but a lot of head of recruitments have come and gone. Jason Wilcox, he was around a year. He had a certain way that he wanted to play football. He brought Russell Martin in. They were aligned to go in a certain way. He leaves. We then go into a Premier League campaign without anybody really heading up recruitment with any real experience. We then quickly change manager, and we go with a manager that wants to play a totally different way again. So we totally change tactic, and then we revert back and go back with Simon Russ. We go back to what we were doing with Russell Martin, and that constant change of head of recruitments, managers. It's just Jack Stevens did an interview with Solent a few days ago, and he was sort of saying, not only have we had a lot of managers, they've all had such a different way in what they want to play football, and all these head of recruitments as well. They've all had different ideas and what they want to see. I think football clubs, and a lot of football clubs you would say this for, is being aligned top to bottom, from the owner to the board to who's recruiting to the manager. I feel for large parts of it, we haven't been aligned. I think it's a big issue, and it's led us to where we are right now. And too many managers, too many head of recruitments, and it's caught up with us big time.
Is that the biggest problem, Steve? We've kind of been victims of them not having the right structure at board level too, because we were talking about who was running the club. Whose decision was it to sack Will Still, for example? If we're going to use a recent example, Dragon Solak was, we were led to believe that it was his decision. Then Johannes Spors comes out and says, actually, no, it was mine. And we're like, well, what's going on here? Who's running the club? Who's taking these responsibilities?
Yeah, and there does seem to be a kind of question of eyes on or off the ball, really, as well, because Spors claimed credit or blame, whichever way you want to look at it, for Will Still, and yet at the same time he was being linked with sporting director roles elsewhere. It's like, well, which is it? Are you committed? Are you committed to this, or are you not? Because I would imagine that the person who kind of leaks that somebody is linked with a sporting director role is that sporting director. I can't imagine there can't be a massive trade in journalistic news on sporting director moves among Championship and Bundesliga clubs.
It's not going to get the clicks, is it?
No. So yeah, the kind of board structure, who is responsible for what, it does seem a little bit opaque. Who is kind of dedicated to Saints? Who is floating between Saints, Göztepe, Valenciennes, fronting up any bids for other clubs? We've seen us heavily linked with. We've seen Sport Republic heavily linked with buying FC Sofia in Bulgaria, and which is, I think that's kind of all kind of died a death now, but that was heavily mentioned about 6 to 8 weeks ago. And so yeah, it's a question of who is focused on what within Saints, because ultimately none of us really give a shit about the rest of the Sport Republic portfolio. Sure,
I think that's been part of the problem, though, because people will say, well, the multi-club model it's got its benefits. We don't really get to see them.
Yeah,
do you think that's part of the problem?
I was going to say, at the moment, I'm not sure we've seen much of a benefit, even though we are clearly the biggest club in that model within this group. Partly that's because Göztepe, when they bought them, was in the second division in Turkey, so therefore not really relevant to us in terms of being on a useful level. Since they got promoted, they became useful with a couple of players being sent there on loan, but then we've not really seen anything from them. Matsky, was Matsky there on loan, or was he elsewhere? I can't remember.
No, he's there on loan.
So he's come back and looked quite useful. So there is obviously some kind of benefit in terms of you get these promising players in, you farm them out, and they get some experience in competitive environment that's kind of under your watch. If everybody's kind of got this idea of trying to play the same way, then that kind of is fine. But the problem is, as you said just now, we've chopped and changed managers, and more or less every time we've changed the manager, the style of football has changed. Yeah. So how can you get a consistent approach across multiple football clubs? It's impossible. I would be amazed if even Man City have managed it across the City Football Group, and they've got about 12 clubs, but you can't all play the same way because different leagues have different standards.
Yeah.
You can't necessarily sign the right players to play the way that you want to play. We're still trying to play that same playing out from the back method, which, when it works and we can do it at pace, great. It looks good, and you get yourself up the pitch quickly beyond 5 or 6 opposition players. You can see the benefit of it when it works. The problem is that our players generally haven't been good enough to play at the pace required, and that's where it all kind of falls apart, because you get picked off in midfield, you get picked off I mean, worst case, you get picked off between the centre backs, and all of a sudden you've given the opposition a free shot at goal when actually you had the ball out of play in your 6-yard box, and rather than just going long and getting the ball 60 yards up the field, you've decided to pass it 5 yards sideways. So it's difficult to see how multi-club, other than the obvious financial benefits, if you do it right, or if you do it in the volume that, say, Chelsea are doing it, for example. I mean, I'm still absolutely certain that there's some kind of nefarious, dodgy sort of money laundering aspect to all of this, because Chelsea don't seem to be a serious football club in any way, shape, or form. They
Why
seem
didn't
to
you
be
say allegedly here or not? Is it? I feel like I just need to jump in and go allegedly.
My opinion is that they don't seem to be a serious football club in terms of actually being solely there to win football trophies and games of football. They're a player trading outfit who, because of the quality of players that they're trading in and out, are largely able to put a competitive team on the pitch. And then you've got some patsy who then has to make something out of it. And it just doesn't feel like the game. But
we'd all swap places with them in the league. Glenn, is there a scenario where Sport Republic are here for like the next 18 months and then assuming we don't go up this year, like you say earlier, next year is the last year of the parachute payments. They'll have some big decisions to make in the summer, because you don't want to be laboured with a club in the Championship with no parachute payments, because then you're losing money hand over fist. Do you think when they go, we can't make this work, we're done?
Alfie has said in the past at various points that if we reach that point where we don't get promoted either this season or next season, that could well be the time that Dragan Solak decides to cash in his chips. And I guess Sport Republic will be here as long as he is. I mean, the only constants across the 4 years who have basically appointed the people that have made the decisions, blah, 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 are Dragan Solak and Rasmus Ankersen. They're the only two that have been there the entire time. So I guess you say the buck stops with those two, as they've, I mean, I think Dragon's admitted that he kind of took his eye off the ball initially and let people make decisions that were wrong too often, and then he got, more heavily involved. Rasmus is the sort of mystery behind all this. He seems to be the Teflon guy. Just seems to no one knows really what he does, but everybody knows he's still kind of involved. I'm curious as to how his role overlaps Johannes Spoor's role. And I think we've always got these questions. The multi-club model, because we barely see any benefit of it, I think everyone kind of just looks at it and goes, well, that's a distraction. That's clearly not helping. Why have we got this? How is it benefiting things? So yeah, I can see a scenario. Dragan Solak seems like a solid sort of stand-up guy. I can see him at some point in the future, if we stay where we are, just going, what, I can't, maybe I can't get this right, and we'll sell it on. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen soon. I think it's more likely that we'll have another, as Martin was talking about earlier, we'll probably have another director of football change, probably this summer. I get the impression that Johannes Spoors won't stick around. And Steve's player trading thing point is interesting as well, because I've felt ever since Sport Republic come in, we've been signing players predominantly for resale value rather than looking at what makes us a good team on the pitch.
I don't think anyone can argue against that.
Why I was frustrated earlier on this year when Spoors sort of said, all the players we're going to sign are going to be sort of like big and physical and stuff like that. And you sign Josh Kwasi, fine. You sign Damien Downs, yeah, fine. Okay, he's not very good. But we've still got this team of very small players who are not really suited to the to the season that's in front of us. So yeah, it's they haven't covered themselves in glory. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I can see an end to it. But unfortunately, that into it will be, they won't sell us from a position of strength. Put it that way.
Not going to be in the Premier League in the top half, are we? When they decide to walk away. Just final word, Martin, on the owners. Is there a very slim thought of be careful what you wish for? I mean, you and I, we've all been fans long enough to have seen some pretty crap owners over the years, and there are some dreadful owners out there up and down the leagues. Actually, we have got somebody that has got a bit of money. They are happy to invest it. Are we just is it careful what you wish for?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely, there's no doubt about that. Like you say, you could end up with an awful owner. Hopefully, if he does decide to sell it, that he sells it to the right person. It was quite interesting that he said in the summer when he sat down with Alfie and Adam that he said that if we got back to the Premier League, he'd be open to investment. He didn't feel that he could do it on his own. It's quite interesting that he'd do that. He maybe would he sell a stake in it? I don't know, but I think if we go back, we'd need serious investment. Not that we're going to be back in the Premier League anytime soon. You'd need a huge overhaul. I'd be quite interested to see if they do a fans forum this January. They usually do one in January. They didn't do it last year, obviously. It was the absolute pits, and we were in the midst of a terrible season. But they normally do a small one around this time of year. Will they do it this year? I reckon they'll probably stay away from it, to be quite honest.
Yeah, be behind closed doors. Anything else before we finish? We haven't really spoken about the new assistant coach, not assistant manager, Steve. This is Ben Garner from Bristol Rovers, Swindon Town, Charlton Athletic announced today. He was on the touchline, but I'm a bit like...
Is he related to Ryan the Piranha Garner?
I wouldn't put
because
it past him.
If he is, that's a positive. But if not, I struggle to see a positive.
We don't know much about him, and to be honest, it's like if he's all right, he'll end up moving on somewhere else. If he's not, he'll just go when we change the manager.
Yeah, the only note I got was from two different Bristol Rovers fans that I know, basically questioning what the hell we're doing.
Yeah.
So that
Charlton fans were the same, weren't they? They were all kind of like laughing around. So,
let's be fair. A position as assistant coach is very different from actually being the manager. So maybe he's decided, okay, I'm not I don't have what it takes to kind of bring it all together and be the front guy, but I'm a good coach, and therefore I can make a difference and improve players. If that's the angle and that works out, then great. But yeah, certainly the response from his former clubs has not been overwhelmingly positive. Let's say that.
Yeah, he's going to have his work cut out. Anything else before we bring this therapy session to a close for another week?
Women's derby this weekend, isn't it?
Saturday night. How many tickets? Was it 3,500 tickets? I saw 4,000 tickets.
There or thereabouts. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I'm
clashes with the men's game, right?
With the schedule of this, it's absolute nonsense to have it on the Saturday night when the first team are playing a game where
3,000 fans at Doncaster
are going to be in Doncaster and can't go, won't be able to watch it because I mean that East Coast rail line is just no signal black spot all the way up. The scheduling is ridiculous, and yeah, they need to have a word with themselves, frankly.